Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to our 8th National Policy Forum on Innovation, Entrepreneurship, and Higher Education. I'm really excited. To my right, our first speaker, President of The Ohio State University, Dr. G. Gordon Gee, who will be bringing the presidential perspective of successful capital campaign, and he just happened to finish about $3 billion with a B. Okay. And to my left is Mr. Walter Sonny Doriso, is the chairman of the Emory campaign, and Emory University, just even under this difficult condition, with their goal of 1.5, they raised about $1.7 billion, and he will bring the campaign chair's perspective. And Robert Sweeney, he is the Senior Vice President for Development at the University of Virginia. He's going to bring the top fundraisers perspective. So with those three, I'm sure all of us will be benefited highly. General Larry Ellis from Board of Regents of Georgia, General Charles Williams, William Innovative Strategies, General Harry Brooks, Dr. Matthew Jenkins, is the CEO of SDD Inc., Jim Weinstock from UPS, former UPS, Belinda Montego from Dell, Isaiah Rees from Microsoft, Dr. Esther Perry, President of Bennett College. Next to her is Cynthia Jackson Hammond, President of Central State, Dr. Michelle Howard Vital, the President of Cheney University of Pennsylvania, just walking in, President of Fisk University, H. James Williams, Dr. Albert Walker, President of Harris Stowe College, Dr. Lester Newman, President of Jervis Christian College, incoming president of Lincoln University, currently at North Carolina Central, Dr. Kevin Rome. Then we have Dr. William Pollard from New York, Medgar Evers College, Dr. Cynthia Warwick, president of South Carolina State University, our host chancellor, James Lawrence from Southern University, president of Rust College, David Beckley, President of Tougaloo College, Dr. Beverly Hogan, and another host university, President of Tuskegee University, Dr. Gilbert Roshan, and Dr. Patricia Hardaway is the President of Wilberforce University. President of The Ohio State University, E. Gordon Gee. Let's give him a big round of applause.
First of all, I'm amazed you remembered all these people's names. Isn't that great? Mohammed, thank you very much, and I'm honored to be here with all of you. I really apologize for the fact that I will have to leave directly after, but I'm going to go raise money. And that's what university presidents always do, but I'm honored to be here. As Mohammed indicated, I've had a very well-traveled background, including numerous stops as a college president, starting off at West Virginia, and then the University of Colorado, and then Ohio State, and then Brown, and then Vanderbilt, and now I'm back at Ohio State again. I've been asked today to speak a bit about fundraising, perhaps because it is, in one sense, what I do for a living. I think that's what we all do for a living. I was telling the story the other day. I had a 36-year-old daughter. When I was at the University of Colorado, she was in class one day, and it's probably as good a description about fundraising as I've read. Her teacher asked all the students in the class if they would write something about what their fathers did, and all these students wrote furiously, and she didn't write anything. And I had this in my office, by the way, what she wrote. But finally, the teacher said, "Well, can't you write one thing about your dad? What does he do?" And she said, "Well," and she wrote it down. She said, "I do not know what my dad loves, but he lives in a big house and begs." And so I think that and any skilled fundraiser will tell you what elevates a simple plea for money into an engaging discussion that moves hearts and minds and opens wallets is a compelling story to tell. And it is all about story. It's all about journey. And ladies and gentlemen, there is no more compelling story to tell than what we're all engaged in. We're engaged in the future of this nation, our children, and the opportunity to talk about that is singularly important. My fundamental job is to articulate clearly the vision of the university and remind people of our noble purpose of teaching and learning and of educating future leaders. We all understand the new normal of unprecedented challenges to state and federal funding for higher education. We are living that daily. In order to fund our academic mission, it is important that potential donors understand that private giving has never been more essential. It is important they realize their generosity can transform lives. Engagement is enormously important, which is a high-minded way of saying, get in front of as many people as you can to share your vision. Kiss those babies, shake those hands, and bang on those doors, because the money does not rain down from the sky. It never has and it never will. Your supporters must understand how important their role is to your mission.
Anybody else? You must have covered really well.
Well, or I scared the hell out of people.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Let me just say, Mohammed, I appreciate this. Let me just say to all of you before I leave, you know, I've been at this a long time. This is one of the most challenging times I've seen in 33 years. It also is the most empowering time because I believe challenge brings the opportunity to change.
Let's give one more round of applause for Dr. Gee. In our part two, we are going to hear from Mr. Walter Sonny Doriso to give the campaign chair perspective. I had great success in fundraising a number of different programs, different occasions, and over the years, I have learned few things. And in front of you, there's a top 10 list that I prepared, which I found very, very useful. I just wanted to share that with you. And so our next speaker is Mr. Walter Sonny Doriso. Let's give him a big round of applause and we'll hear from him soon.
This is a southern drawl, by the way. I'm not hoarse today. This is the way I always talk. There had never been a campaign in excess of $1 billion in the state of Georgia. When we began, we spent a year working on the plans and the business plans for each of the units of the university. Everyone had their needs list. And then they all came back at our request with what can you not live without list. When we started, we had $3 billion in needs. When we decided what the campaign was going to be, it was $1.6 billion. The consultants that we talked with at the time said you probably can't raise more than $1.4 billion. But we decided we needed to raise $1.6 billion. Your development person is really key. We raised $350 million from alumni. $1.8 million came from faculty and staff of the total $1.6 billion. That was a very strong commitment. Over 149,000 donors contributed in this campaign. 96,532 of these were first-time donors to Emory. 90,000 of those were individuals, and about 6,000 were organizations. As you set your sights, don't set the perimeter too narrow. We've done some studies at Emory that will show that an alum who is a recent graduate may give $10 a year for several years, but we have examples of $1 million gifts 20 years later from those that gave $10 for several years.
Normally, we spend about 2% annually of the institution's operating budget on development.
Yes, sir.
How active was the president?
He was fundraiser in chief, and he was very involved in formulating the strategy, the business plan, and 2 years of quiet phase, 5 years of public phase.
Okay, and you said
We have to meet the goal, and we have to meet it within the time that was set.
Thank you so much. With that last comment, let's give a big round of applause to Mr. Doriso. We heard presidential perspective, we heard the campaign chairman perspective. Now we are going to hear the top fundraiser. So I invited Teresa Sullivan, and she said, well, if you're doing the fundraising, let me talk to my best person. He is the Senior Vice President for Development at the University of Virginia. Just after all this trouble, still able to raise almost $3 billion. So that says a lot. Bob Sweeney. Let's give him a big round of applause.
The notion that that we did all we could is the mantra of the underachiever, the slacker, the loser, and that there's always more that we can do to reimagine, re-energize, and to recommit to success. And you've really heard from three of the best in Sonny talking about Emory, Charlie Flager this morning talking about the Cornell campaign, and Gordon Gee about Ohio State. So you've really heard from three of the best on how to organize, how to run, and how to lead from a volunteer perspective. So I'm going to try and cover a little bit of different territory, and I hope this will be somewhat helpful. The Emorys and the Virginias and the Ohio States are in the midst of a sea change in higher education, and that there is a disruptive form of technology or a disruptive structure that is taking place, and that if they don't change along with it, they will end up being bypassed. They would give in peer-to-peer, they would give in aggregated giving, and that what we could then do is take and start leveraging gifts of everything from $5 to $500 million in a way that could change philanthropy.
Dr. Jenkins and Dr. Pollard.
Yes. Have you heard of any major college that missed their campaign goal? And what was the impact?
Yeah, I've heard of one, the University of Virginia. So,
how do you manage controversy in the midst of a campaign? Some do's and some.
I think the first thing that you have to do is make sure that that your volunteer leadership and the broader base of volunteer leadership is absolutely wired into exactly what's happening in kind of as much in real time as possible, because they're being asked questions.
What characteristics or qualifications would you recommend that we look for in trying to find a person to help the president start raising money at a small university?
Okay, I think there are a number. The first that I believe in is you have got to hire someone who believes in the same things that you believe in. Someone with integrity, someone who's both interested and interesting, someone who can motivate staff, someone who can, what I call, wear well. You know, it is one constant negotiation, and I think Sonny would validate this. Yes is not the end of a gift negotiation. Yes is the beginning of the negotiation. Once you get someone to agree on a major gift, the amount of time that goes in to trying to make it so that it works for the donor and her financial advisor and for the institution, and that the gift agreements sync up, takes a lot of negotiation, and you need to have someone that builds relationships and confidence with the people. But there's a point, and that is that I think the larger the gift, the more that the donors are looking for maturity in the person that they're negotiating with, so that they feel comfortable, because the size of the gifts are very large. The other thing is to not think about the big gift right away, but what I call proof of concept. You know, let's say you've got a multi-million-dollar project, getting some donors to, a handful of donors, to give you $50,000 a piece or $25,000 a piece a year for 3 or 4 years, so you can get the program running, you can get some activity going, you can show some excellence. I think people are having a harder time these days investing in concept as opposed to where they can see, my God, there's really a great program here, and my investment is going to leverage that program into something truly exceptional. You can bring the best fundraiser in the country in, and that person is not going to start generating high 6- and 7-figure gifts for you in the first year. It just takes time. You've got to build, you can't build, a 5-year relationship in 1 year. Understand that the development officer is simply the bridge builder or the orchestrator between great faculty work and the interests of donors. Donors are not, these guys today, I mean, they're so wealthy, they're flying in on private planes, they've got everything in the world. There's nothing you can give them to stroke them. What they want is if you've got a program in cancer and they're interested in it for a variety of reasons, they want to speak to that, both the clinician and the researcher, and be convinced that that program has the ability to produce results and very quantifiable results. So someone who really works well with the faculty and the senior academic leadership of the institution, I think, is becoming more and more crucial.
With that comment, we are going to end this segment, and just want to make a couple of observations. This particular National Policy Forum, every year we select a specific topic. If you recall last year, the topic was the managing universities under difficult financial conditions. And we had 3 chancellors, Georgia, Tennessee, and North Carolina. And a number of you asked me that, well, we heard the chancellor, but we want to really know about the fundraising. So I went out and got 4 best this year. And so next year, if you have any suggestion, recommendation, please let me know, and I'll go and find the best one in the country. And I think if we just summarize, and I was just looking at my list, that at the end of the day, people really give money to the people. The personal relationship is just the cornerstone. There is no substitute for that. And also, money give for their passion. If you can identify what the weaknesses are and what they care about, the people who are flying in private jet, that's what they care. They don't need anything, so that's very important. And you got to have a powerful story to tell. People like to hear the story. What is the story behind the campaign? And then effective communication and excellent follow-up. And we heard from everyone that go beyond your comfort zone. Look for your potential donor anytime, anywhere. It's a 24-hour, not a weekend job or part-time job. And then just because somebody said no doesn't mean anything. Have thick skin. Go back, figure out how to make it yes. And there are people I have dealt with said no 5 years in a row, 6th year they said yes. So you got to be persistent. Use every resources that you have, and just because your senior vice president of development is there doesn't mean that he is the person going to do the ask. Even if it is a student who has a personal relationship with the potential donor, put that student in the front. Let the student do the asking, and you do the coaching of that student. That's the best way to go. Do it right at the first time. Do your homework before you ask. And then everybody wants to see the result, as Mr. Deriso pointed out. They want to see the results, the return. Everybody is nowadays talking about ROI. So have a plan and show results, which will bring more results to you, to the institution. So with that, let's give a big round of applause to both of them. So with that, we are adjourned. And let's give one more round of applause for everyone.